Okay, today folks is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to describe the process I went through to get this gold tone ME bass set up with the new labella strings. These are the Flatwound strings that Gold Tone markets for this bass and a couple of other of their models. And I had a few problems getting it set up, so I figured I'd go through that process for anybody else trying to get set up with these strings. So I'm going to go through a set of still slides. I didn't take video while I was doing it. So this is basically going to be a set of still photos and take you through the process. So what we're looking at here is the finished product, and we'll see what it took to get there. So here you have the strings when you take them out of the package. You can see they're wrapped up. You've got a blue end goes at the top, and on the other end you've got a ball with little numbered beads on the end, so you can see which is the first, second, third, fourth string. So that's real nice. And in the middle there, that's the low E string from the Aquila Thunder Guts that I took off. So you can see the new strings are quite a bit thinner, as you would expect with a flat wound string. So first step to getting the new strings on, you're going to flip the bass over, and you need to get to the access ports. And so we're going to start by taking off the bottom access port, the rectangular box there, and just number 2 Phillips screwdriver, get those out. And behind that access port, what you'll find is a battery. This is an active pickup, so you need a 9-volt battery to power your pickup. So you don't want to leave. You want to leave your bass plugged in, or you're going to drain that battery pretty quick. And then you have all the strings are tied off through the bridge underneath this access port. So you can see the factory Thunder Guts there tied off. The low E string is on the right hand side, and then you go up E, A, D, G, high G string on the left. If you're curious about that oblong port, you don't really have to open that, but here's what's behind it. That's all your pickup wiring. And on the inside of that plate, you have model number and serial number. And just a little tidbit, the 615 there means that this particular bass was manufactured in June 2015. So it's about 3 years old at the time of this video. All right, so once you've got the access port out, you can take the old string off and put the new one on, and it just goes up through the bottom, through the bridge, and up through the headstock. So this is kind of the initial look at the headstock. But I got to looking at that and thinking, this doesn't seem right. There's really not much blue string to be able to tie off at this point. It doesn't really look right. And down at the bridge, seems like it was touching where the strings kind of taper down to the ends. That doesn't seem quite right either. And then on the bottom, you can see here that the ball and the bead goes all the way into the hole there, and that didn't seem right either. So I kind of stopped at that point and sent off a few emails, got in touch with Gold Tone's technical, customer support, and they suggested use a washer to kind of get that back out of the hole. So I got digging around in my hardware drawer, and I found these. Number 8 flat washers, and these work just fine. Could have been a little bit smaller hole, but these work just fine, and that's what I had around the house. So put those on. You can see, just string the washer in, and I'll show you in a few more pictures what that looked like. So on the top here, Gold Tone suggested you take about 2 inches, which is about 2 finger joints worth of string, cut that off. So that's what I ended up with on the E string. And you just take the end of that, insert down, and then kind of wrap it around the post and tune it up. So that's pretty self-explanatory. Now I found this E string didn't have quite enough wraps for my liking, so the other ones I went more like 3.5 inches, but it's on there and it works. All right, so then you just do the same thing for the other 3 strings. And by the way, this is just a little cheap guitar tuner, and that worked just great for getting these off. Save a few turns. All right, so you do all 4 strings, and here's what it looks like with all 4 strings on and a new battery. So that's great. And here's what a top view looked like at that point. But so tuned it up, started playing, and noticed that the intonation on this was just horrible. It was like 30 cents off on the bass strings and about 60 or 70 on the bottom string. So play an E, open E, and then E at the 12th fret. It was closer to an F. So I was like, this can't be right. So I messed around with the thumb screws and the top screws there, trying to get the intonation dialed down, and still couldn't get it. And then I got to noticing, what's the action on this? 'Cause it seemed like the strings were awfully high, and it turned out they were like 1/4 inch, which is 6 millimeters, about twice as high as they should be. And then I got to noticing, geez, there's a lot of air under that bridge. So I kind of put two and two together, and it's like, we got to get this down. So at that point, sent off some more emails and did some head scratching. Eventually got the bridge down like this. Now the secret tip here is, and kind of what I messed up the first time, was I didn't put my string tension down low enough. So you don't have to take the strings off, but you need to really take this tension down so that the strings are not exerting any pressure, any down pressure on the bridge. And once you do that, then the bridge can get moved around pretty easily. You don't want to be fighting the string tension there. All right, so you can see here I've got the strings down pretty much as far as they'll go. And the bridge moved pretty much forward as far as it'll go as well. So at this point, retook the intonation, and it's pretty good now. It's still about 10 cents sharp on the bass strings, but it's pretty much spot on the treble strings. And action is down to about 0.11 to 0.13. That's about 2.7 to 3 millimeters. And I think I'm going to leave it there. Might get a little better messing with the nut and the saddle, but I'm not a guitar tech, and I don't want to screw anything up, so I'm going to stop there. So here we got the finished product. These are just some glamour shots here. You can see the headstock, so there's all 4 strings installed. Back of the headstock. Back with all the ports put back on. Nothing to do with setup, just a side look. Another side look. And there's the neck. Probably can't tell from the photo, but there's the action down to a good level. And back to the end. So there you go. Secret is just get your bridge adjusted well. Move the bridge where it needs to go, and make sure you get your action down. So the main tip there was just, get the tension off, make your adjustments. You'll have to do that 2 or 3 times probably to get it right, but once you do, I think you'll be pleased with this bass, and I'll have some upcoming projects to show it off later. Thanks.